Feel free to return to our channel at any time. The Firm and AC Manfred Mann's Earth Band are just two of the many legendary acts that have worked with the legendary British drummer Chris Slade throughout his impressive career spanning decades. Slade got the chance to collaborate with Pink Floyd's legendary guitarist David Gilmour in the early 80s while Gilmour was working on solo projects. Working with Gilmour and bassist Roger Waters gave Slade insight into Pink Floyd's inner workings that they hadn't had before, especially regarding the turbulent relationship between the two. Chris Slade has given disturbing interviews in which he portrays Roger Waters' position inside Pink Floyd. According to Slade, Waters was more than just a leader. He was a powerful figure who could control, manipulate, and even stifle the imagination of anyone in his vicinity. The efforts of Waters' bandmates, especially David Gilmour, were eclipsed by his craving for dominance, as pointed out by Slade. There was severe discord in the band because Waters either refused to recognize or couldn't see the contributions that his fellow members made. According to Slade, the poisonous dynamic that resulted from Waters' near-arrogant faith in his own ideas allowed for very little creative contribution from anybody else. Egoism emanating from Rogers dominated the space. According to Slade, who expanded on the previous statement, Waters would frequently flat-out reject Gilmour's or any member's creative suggestions or ideas if they didn't fit with his vision. Slade claims that Waters' intransigence not only hampered their ability to create, but also fostered animosity that persisted even after the recording sessions had concluded. As time went on, Waters' insistence that his vision was paramount replaced Pink Floyd's previous emphasis on teamwork with an air of arrogance. David Gilmour's talent and contributions were crucial to Pink Floyd's success, and Slade was especially critical of Waters' treatment of him. He asserts that Waters frequently discredited Gilmour, treating him more like an employee than a collaborator. According to Slade, one of the main causes of the band's internal strife was Waters' refusal to acknowledge Gilmour as an equal. Pink Floyd would not have achieved its legendary status if Gilmour had not been involved. According to Slade, Waters was oblivious to Gilmour's pivotal role due to his haughtiness. Slade claims that Waters had the impression that Gilmour's artistic abilities were an annoyance, detracting from what Waters saw as Pink Floyd's inherent self-reflectiveness. Almost every member of the band felt alienated by Roger Waters' tyrannical demeanor, not only Gilmour. Waters, according to Slade, was someone who deliberately encouraged discord by setting people against one another and generating an antagonistic environment. Slade argues that this conduct was an intentional strategy to keep power, rather than merely an outcome of Waters' ambition. Roger got a kick out of making us feel alone. In his recollection, Slade said that it appeared as though Waters' tactic was to keep everyone on edge and uncertain of their position. He seemed to be ignoring the band members' efforts while also trying to make them feel obligated to him. There was more at play than just creative differences in Roger Waters' handling of his bandmates. A man whose indifference to the feelings of others verged on open disdain is shown by Chris Slade. In addition to leading the band, Waters imposed his will on it with an iron grip, routinely dismissed any viewpoint that differed from his own. In the studio, Slade recalls instances when David Gilmour, whose innate musicality had molded the band's character, would suggest a gentler, more melodic direction, only to have Waters smirk or make a casual remark to disregard it. Whatever else Waters could see that wasn't his gloomy, cerebral vision was meaningless, and he made sure Gilmour and the others knew it. Slade remembers a specific incident clearly. During the recording of The Wall, Gilmour had proposed a specific guitar riff that he thought would give one of the songs more depth emotionally. Waters gave Gilmour a cursory listen before mumbling, "We're not making pop songs here for Gilmour," a reference to the fact that Waters' influence was beginning to eclipse Gilmour's. It was like getting slapped in the face by this careless rejection. It was more than simply a refusal. It was an emphatic statement of Waters' conviction that his vision was paramount and that all others' opinions were, at best, secondary. Waters' condescending attitude affected more than just Gilmour. The band's keyboardist, Richard Wright, was subjected to even more severe punishment. In front of the whole crew, Waters would publicly condemn Wright's playing during rehearsals, as Slade describes it. During the recording sessions for Animals, Waters went to extreme lengths to make Wright feel insignificant, even going as far as to refer to his work as filler. The remarks of Waters, a musician who had been fundamental to the band's distinctive sound in the past, stung. Slade recollects how, following these comments, Wright would stealthily exit the studio, withdrawing within himself, obviously wounded by the relentless criticism. This demeaning conduct wasn't merely Waters expressing his creative vision, as Slade stresses. The goal was to set up a system of authority that would act as a continual reminder to everyone around him that their primary purpose was to support his goals. Having control wasn't sufficient for Roger, Slade thinks. His goal was to establish his authority by dismantling his subordinates one remark at a time. The trust and respect that had previously united the band members was shattered, according to Slade, and an emotional chasm was formed as a result. Slade claimed that the mental scars caused by Waters' callousness were just as painful as any disagreement over money or art. According to his recollection, as the members of the band grew more isolated from one another, their encounters took on the tone of power struggles rather than collaborations. Not only did Waters poison the atmosphere by consistently ignoring the work of others, but he also made people feel alienated from one another. Disrespect and condescension, according to Slade, were underlying factors in Pink Floyd's disintegration and left wounds that persisted long after the band's glory days were past. Slade saw Waters' callous attitude as representative of a larger problem, a feeling of superiority that hampered his own creativity. It wasn't enough for Roger to desire to be the lead singer of Slade Notes. Slade believed that everyone else was merely pawns in his master plan, so he wanted to take full ownership of it. What started out as a cooperative effort escalated into an aggressive power struggle due to this individual's unbridled ego. This gloomy undercurrent, he argues, will follow Pink Floyd into the next generation and serve as a constant reminder of how precarious even the most fruitful creative collaborations can be. The tour was the lowest point for Waters' toxic conduct. He lost all control of his rage and became extremely controlling. Walking on a minefield was the best way Slade could describe touring with Waters. Getting on his bad side for the remainder of the trip would be as easy as one misguided glance or suggestion, Slade recalled. Everything about Waters' performances, from set lists to stage layouts, was his way or no way. And his wrath may flare up at the slightest change, even if it came from the technical staff. Everyone in the band, from members to personnel to fans, was on edge because of his erratic and unpredictable behavior. Slade claimed that the unpleasant and unpredictable atmosphere that resulted from the lack of control over the situation made performing a chore rather than an enjoyable experience. His long-running feud with David Gilmour, which only became worse as Pink Floyd's fame soared, was one of the most visible and detrimental parts of Waters' influence. As far as Slade could tell, Waters saw Gilmour not as an ally but as an adversary, someone to be controlled rather than welcomed. This animosity escalated from a private dispute to a public feud, which in turn caused contentious decisions and, ultimately, Waters' departure. According to Slade, one of the factors that led to Pink Floyd's demise was Waters' intransigence and constant undercutting of Gilmour. It appeared that sharing the spotlight was completely out of the question for Waters. However risky it may be for the future of the band. Roger Waters, as portrayed by Chris Slade, was a guy whose ego and feelings of isolation are just as defining of his legacy as his musical brilliance. According to Slade, Pink Floyd went from being a group effort to being headed by Waters because of his egotism and his need to have the last say. The price, according to Slade, was not merely monetary but also aesthetic. Waters' refusal to acknowledge that there was more than one way forward for Pink Floyd stifled the band's creative potential. Although Waters' brilliance cannot be denied, Slade's narratives expose a shadowy aspect of his impact, the one that caused relationships to crumble and the band to split apart. Waters and Gilmour's feud has been well reported. The cohesiveness of the band was compromised as a result of their competing creative visions. Waters' need for dominance, according to Slade, collided with Gilmour's musical philosophy, leading to an antagonistic work atmosphere. This conflict was about more than just the band members' personal lives. It also affected the band's ability to create new music. Slade has great respect for Gilmour as a guitarist because of their tight working relationship. Pink Floyd's musical genius, he says, is largely responsible for the band's lasting influence. According to Slade, the band's success would not have been possible without Gilmour's help. The unique guitar style and songwriting abilities of Gilmour, he says, were crucial to the formation of the band. The intricacies of Pink Floyd are illuminated by Slade's observations. He implies that internal turmoil occurred as a result of Waters' domineering nature and disregard for his bandmates' abilities. The band's disintegration was accelerated by this setting, which made teamwork difficult. Slade's thoughts bring attention to the importance of personal dynamics on group performance and the fine line that must be walked in creative relationships. Inside Pink Floyd's inner circle, Chris Slade saw Roger Waters in dual roles as visionary and villain, revealing a complex portrait of the band's interactions. His observations provide light on the difficulties that develop when one person's insatiable need for control takes precedence over teamwork. In his thoughts, Slade brings to light the ways in which Waters' manner damaged the band's cohesion and how the undervaluation of David Gilmour's work diminished Pink Floyd's iconic quality. No one person could have come up with Pink Floyd's signature sound, as Slade's admiration for Gilmour serves as a reminder. Gilmour was more than just a guitarist. He was the driving force behind the band and a welcome counterpoint to Waters' ferocity. The band Pink Floyd, according to Slade, would have sounded lifeless and distant without Gilmour's contribution. All members' contributions should be valued in a collective artistic endeavor, and this appreciation for each member's role is a good reminder of that. While Waters may have catapulted the band to fame, he also shattered the bonds that were vital to its formation, a cruel irony that Slade stresses. Pink Floyd's legacy reflects this tragic figure of genius who was so preoccupied with his own ambition that he failed to appreciate the abilities of those around him. Slade thinks that legacy may have been even more impactful if Waters had understood the need of unity rather than dominance.